Good evening. I hope you're doing alright. Hope this music isn't too loud. I forgot to test the music volume before I started. So I'm not sure. Let me turn it down a little bit. Maybe that's better, maybe it's too quiet now, I don't know. Let's see here. Turn it down quite a bit. Hopefully that's better. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. I don't know. I think I might start doing this sort of bedtime story streams after work. From now on, I don't know. Do about an hour or so. That's what tonight's going to be. Little bedtime story streams. So, like the other night where I recorded the books. Let's go over to that. Oh, there we go. Oh. Rawr, I'm a dragon. But today we'll be reading out of this book. I got more lights on today. So I don't know if that'll make it better or worse with that glare. I see that in the recording there, the live stream. But yes, today we're going to be Children's Treasury, collection of favorite stories. It looks like these are all shortened versions of the stories. They're not the full length. These are bedtime stories. You're not going to read a multiple hour long book for a bedtime story. So let's just start at the beginning. We'll start at the beginning, and we'll just go from there. So, these are the stories that are in this book. We're going to start at the beginning, so it's going to be Gulliver's Travels. Gulliver's Travels, a little shortened version. I know the original. I have a copy of the story, and I know it's more than 28 pages long. So we'll do these for about an hour or so, and then we'll call it a night. And I'm going to go to bed because these aren't just stories for you, they're bedtime stories for me. So let's see, the first story here, Gulliver's Travels. Oh, let me get this more centered there. Hopefully that'll be a little bit better. There once was a man named Gulliver who longed for adventure. One day, he set out on a journey to explore distant lands. Not long into his voyage, a horrible storm struck. The crew was tossed from the ship, and the waves swallowed them. They were lost at sea. Gulliver awoke on a grassy shore. He could not move, but he felt something walking up his leg and onto his chest. When he peered down at his body, he saw tiny humans, no bigger than spoons, standing on his chest. He tried to lift his head, but found that his whole body had been tied down with fine ropes. With a little effort, the ropes broke, and Gulliver sat up. The little people began to panic, so Gulliver stayed very still. Soon, the little people understood that he didn't want to harm them. The emperor of the little people stood on a platform and spoke to Gulliver in a language that Gulliver could not understand. Patiently, Gulliver waited for the little man to end his speech. When the emperor was finished, Gulliver smiled and pointed to his mouth. The little man saw that Gulliver was hungry and ordered his subjects to serve him enough food for 200 people. After he ate, the people brought a specially made cart. Gulliver climbed aboard, and 900 little people pulled him to their capital. Gulliver was excited to learn about this strange land called Lilliput and its people. He worked very hard to understand their language and to discover as much as he could about their interesting culture and customs. The Lilliputians were fascinated with their visitor. Gulliver showed them his few possessions that had survived the storm: coins, a pin, and his pocket watch. The Lilliputians were most interested in how the watch ticked and what it was used to measure. Gulliver enjoyed his time with the Lilliputians, and they loved to entertain him. One day, he saw the army of Lilliput practicing their drills. They looked just like Gulliver's toy soldiers from when he was a boy. In a nearby field, Gulliver made a stage out of his handkerchief and placed all of the soldiers and horses on it. Then he lifted the emperor up in his hand to watch the army's drills from above. The emperor was so impressed, he wanted all Lilliputians to see the army practice each day. A few weeks later, the emperor told Gulliver that the Lilliputians were getting ready for battle. For a long time, they had been at war with the only other kingdom they knew, an island nation called Blefuscu. Maybe that? Blefuscu. The Emperor of Lilliput and the Emperor of Blefuscu bickered over which end of an egg is best to crack first. The Emperor of Blefuscu claimed it was the small end, while the Emperor of Lilliput declared it was the large end. Each one knew his way was best, and the argument turned into a war. The Lilliputians had a fine army, but they did not have a navy or any battleships. The emperor asked for Gulliver's help. Gulliver's job during the battle would be to stop the ships from Blefuscu before they arrived on the shores of Lilliput. Gulliver set out on his own across the sea. He soon met the enemy ships as they left the shores of Blefuscu. By simply raising out of the water, Gulliver frightened the Blefuscudians terribly. I think I got it that time. Most of them dove from their ships and swam back to shore. Let's see if we can get one page. Don't need so many. Come on, claws. There we go. And there's him towing the ships. Some soldiers shot arrows from their ships, but Gulliver brushed them off like little thorns. Gulliver tugged the Blefuscadian ships across the sea to the land of Lilliput. Great cheers rose from the shore as he came closer, pulling the entire fleet of Blefuscu with one massive hand. Without their battleships, the people of Blefuscu could no longer wage war against the Lilliputians. From that day forward, the little people of Lilliput called Gulliver the greatest warrior of all time. He had ended many sad years of battle. One day, Gulliver spotted a ship out at sea, just like the one he had sailed on. It was time for him to go. The Emperor of Lilliput gave Gulliver several cows and some food for his journey. Then he thanked Gulliver for all of his help. Gulliver was welcomed aboard the passing ship. He told the crew his voyage to Lilliput. No one believed his story until he reached into his pocket and pulled out the tiny cattle he had received from the Emperor. That was more than enough to convince them. On the next leg of his journey, Gulliver's ship sailed into a monsoon and was tossed about for days. Gulliver swam to a nearby shore for help. Next to the shore, Gulliver found a field of tall grass. Each blade of grass was taller than 3 people. Gulliver felt the ground shake, and he was nearly squashed by a massive shoe. The shoe belonged to a giant farmer who saw Gulliver and picked him up. With an amazed laugh and a big grin, the farmer dropped Gulliver into the darkness of his pocket. The farmer thought he might show the little man to his friends in town. His friends were amazed with what they saw. To them, Gulliver was only the size of a doll, but he walked and talked like everyone else. Soon, everyone in town wanted to see the living doll. The farmer set up a booth at the market. The townspeople gave the farmer money for the chance to see Gulliver. The farmer told Gulliver to sing and dance, and the crowds of people lined up in the streets to see him. Soon the queen heard about the fascinating little man and went to see him. She was very amused with Gulliver and bought the little man from the farmer for a great sum of money. Gulliver was very comfortable at the palace, inside the tiny room that the queen had made for him. But Gulliver was only allowed to leave the room when the queen asked for him. She called for him at least once a day at dinner. Gulliver ate at the queen's table. She and her court enjoyed watching him while they dined. Gulliver soon grew weary of his life in the palace. He spent each day stuck in his room waiting for the Queen to call on him. The Queen didn't like to see Gulliver sad, so she ordered her servants to carry him out on walks around the palace grounds each day. The Queen also learned that Gulliver had once been a sailor. She had a tiny sailboat built especially for him. After dinner, the Queen and her subjects gathered around the fountain to watch Gulliver practice his sailing skills. The king, however, became bored with just one tiny man. So he put Gulliver in a box and sent him with his men to search the shore for little people. On the shore, an eagle swooped down and picked up Gulliver's box. It carried him over the ocean and dropped him in the water. A while later, Gulliver's box was found by a passing ship. The crew rescued him, and he shared his stories from his adventures as they sailed back home. Everyone was enthralled with Gulliver's tales of Lilliput and the land of giants, and his stories lived on forever. See, I think that is the end. Yep, and that is the end of Gulliver's Travels. Shall we go on to the next story? The next one is a abridged version of The Velveteen Rabbit, adapted from the story by Marjorie Williams. So let me I want to do something here real quick. I'm going to mute this for a minute, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I adjusted the volume on the music. Hopefully, it's better. Hopefully, it's not as loud. I mean, well, I can tell it's not as loud. Oh, there we go. So hopefully it's not too quiet now. It's hard to judge when you're doing it live, right? All right, so it's on with this version of Velveteen Rabbit. One Christmas morning, a very excited boy couldn't wait to go downstairs and see what Santa had brought him. His stocking held a wonderful surprise, a velveteen rabbit. The boy kissed and squeezed the rabbit and held it under his arm for the entire day. The boy's nursery was filled with many fancy toys, which made the Velveteen Rabbit feel very plain. The only toy in the nursery who became friends with the Velveteen Rabbit was an old horse. "Fancy toys don't last," said the horse. "They don't have anything lovable inside of them. fancy toys will never become real. What does it mean to be real? Asked the Velveteen Rabbit. I'm not really a voice person, doing multiple voices, but you become real after someone loves you for a long, long time, answered the old horse. That night, the boy's nanny couldn't find the toy dog that the boy usually held while he slept. He'll help you get to sleep tonight, said the nanny as she handed the boy the Velveteen Rabbit. The boy took the Velveteen Rabbit and held him tight. The soft rabbit fit the crook of the boy's arm just right, and the boy quickly fell asleep. The Velveteen Rabbit loved being held and hugged by the boy. For the whole night, the Velveteen Rabbit felt very special, and he hoped that the boy would love him for a very long time. From that night on, the Velveteen Rabbit looked forward to bedtime, when the boy would hug him as he fell asleep. But the two also spent their days together. The boy loved the Velveteen Rabbit so much that he took him everywhere he went. The Velveteen Rabbit's heart was filled with joy and loved the boy. He loved the boy and felt very lucky. The rabbit was so happy he didn't notice how shabby he had become. His fur was dirty from days spent outside, and the space between his ears was wearing thin from being petted. One afternoon, the boy left the Velveteen Rabbit hiding in the garden while he went to pick berries. When it began to rain, the boy ran inside and forgot about his dear Velveteen Rabbit. At bedtime, the boy realized that he had left his friend out in the rain and begged his nanny to go find him. "That's the last time I go out in the rain for a toy," said the nanny, holding the boy, handing the boy his rabbit. I'm getting some glare on the pages, making it difficult with my already poor reading skills. Handing the boy his rabbit. "He is not a toy, he's real," shouted the boy. This made the Velveteen Rabbit very happy. One day, the boy placed the Velveteen Rabbit by a tree while he went to play. After he left, two strange creatures arrived. They looked like toy rabbits, but they could hop all by themselves. "Would you like to come and play with us?" asked one of the rabbits. "No, thank you," said the Velveteen Rabbit. "He's not real, he's just a toy," said the other rabbit as they hopped away. The Velveteen Rabbit remembered what the old horse had said and longed to be real. Before long, the Velveteen Rabbit forgot about the two rabbits in the woods. He was too busy spending time with the boy. One day, the boy became very ill. While he was sick, the Velveteen Rabbit worried about him. He stayed close to the boy and did whatever he could to help him get better. The Velveteen Rabbit spent his days whispering to the boy about all the fun they would have when he was well again. The Velveteen Rabbit was sure he could make the boy feel better. With the help of the Velveteen Rabbit, the boy soon got better. Then the boy went on vacation and accidentally left the Velveteen Rabbit behind. Oh no. The Velveteen Rabbit began to cry. In the spot where his tears had fallen, a flower grew. The flower held a magical fairy who said, "Your love for the boy has earned you the right to become real." Suddenly, the rabbit could hop on his own. "Wasn't I real before?" asked the rabbit. "Only to the boy," answered the fairy. "Now you're real to everyone." Looks like that is the end of that story. The next one is on the next page. Let me see if I'm going to check on the volume and see how it sounds now. So let me mute this again, and then I'll go back and listen to a few seconds of what I just read. Alright, I think the music volume to my voice volume is better now. Doesn't mean not particularly good to listen to, but particularly good to listen. I forgot to mute that again. Forgot to mute the stream. Alright, let's on to the next story, shall we? This is The Brave Little Tailor. I suppose I should read. Illustrated by Jeremy Tugio? I'm not sure. I'm terrible with pronunciations. Alright. One morning, a little tailor was sewing in his shop, looking forward to a snack of bread and jam, when a swarm of flies began to buzz around his food. The little tailor shooed them away with his hands, but the flies kept coming back. The tailor grabbed a scrap of cloth and slapped it down onto the buzzing flies. When he lifted the cloth, 7 flies lay dead on the table. "7 flies in one blow," said the tailor. "The whole world should know my victory." So the tailor decided to go on an adventure to tell the world of his skill. Before he left, he looked for useful things to take with him. All he could find was a piece of cheese. When he left his house, he found a bird stuck in the bushes. The tailor freed the bird and put it in his pocket with the cheese. Very smart. Now you have bird and cheese. The tailor walked through town and up the side of a mountain. At the top, he met a giant. "Hello, giant," said the tailor. "I am on a great adventure. Will you join me?" "A little man like you on a great adventure?" The giant laughed. "But I have killed 7 in one blow," said the tailor, who was very proud. The giant thought the tailor meant 7 men, not flies. He found it very hard to believe that this little tailor could kill 7 in one blow. The giant decided to test the little tailor's strength. "Can you do this?" said the giant. He picked up a stone and crushed it with his hands. The tailor was not as strong as the giant, but he was very clever. The tailor took the cheese from his pocket and crushed it into liquid whey. "Can you do this?" asked the giant. He picked up a stone and threw it up in the air, out of sight. "Watch this," said the tailor, as he took the bird out of his pocket. With a toss of his hand, the bird flew fast out of sight. The giant, who was not very smart, didn't know the tailor used a piece of cheese and a bird instead of stones in his feats of strength. Dumbfounded by the strong little tailor, the giant decided to test him one more time. "If you are strong," said the giant, "help me carry this tree." "Of course," said the tailor. "I will carry the branches. I wouldn't want them to scratch you." When the giant picked up the trunk, the tailor rode in the branches, fooling the giant again. The giant returned home and told his friends about the little tailor, who had killed 7 in one blow and could squeeze rocks into water and threw stones into the heavens and carry trees. The tailor, who had followed the giant, overheard the giant's story and walked over to greet him and his friends. All the giants fled in fear of the strong, mighty tailor. Carry the branches. Word of the brave tailor, who had killed 7 in one blow and could make giants flee, reached the king, who asked the little tailor for a big favor. There are 2 more mischievous giants living in the king's wood. The king told the tailor that if he could get rid of the giants, he could have the princess's hand in marriage. Well, so the tailor went into the woods and found the 2 giants sleeping under a tree. He climbed the tree and dropped acorns on their heads. "Why do you wake me by thumping my head?" roared one of the giants. The giants began to quarrel, and then fought each other until they both lay dead under the tree. The king was very happy to hear of the tailor's victory over the giants, and asked the tailor for one more favor: to capture a dangerous wild unicorn. The tailor agreed and set off to find the wild unicorn. As he entered a nearby village, the tailor saw the unicorn charging towards him. The tailor stood by a tree and stayed very still. At the last minute, he jumped out of the way, and the unicorn's horn stuck fast into the tree's trunk. The tailor freed the unicorn, then rode it back to the king's palace and married the princess. Is that the last of this one? No. Alright, more good. No one ever knew that the brave prince was really just a clever little tailor. But the princess was suspicious of his origins. One night, in his sleep, the princess heard him mumble, "This new fabric would make a fine waistcoat." The princess tried to listen closer, but the clever tailor quickly realized what he had said and continued, "After all, a brave prince who can kill 7 in one blow should have the finest waistcoat in the kingdom, should he not?" And that's the end of that story. You see, maybe I should add what stories I'm reading. So let's see here. The first one was Gulliver's Travels. Let me add that to here. Travels. The next one was The Velveteen Rabbit. Velveteen Rabbit. Then The Brave Little Tailor. Oop. And it looks like, I've got 10 more characters left. What's the next? Hopefully the next one isn't very long. Come here. Just give me one page. Oh, it is long. It is long. You know what I can do? I can do this. Do that, copy that. I can't put it into the title, but I can still put it in the description. So that's what we'll do. We'll put a story for the Sqeakins. And then I'll read this next. A story for Sqeakins. For Sqeakins. I think that'll be the last story of this book that I read. Let's see here. Save. Be the last one, the last story from this book for the night. All right, let's get this back up into a better position. All right, a story for Sqeakins. It was time for little Sqeakins to take his afternoon nap. So he asked old Granny Mouse to read him a story. Stories always help Sqeakins fall asleep. All right then, dearest, dear, said Granny. What kind of story would you like to hear? A nice one with a happy ending, answered Sqeakins. So Granny went to fetch the happiest ending storybook she could find. But on her way to the library, she ran into a bit of trouble. The trouble was mean old Mittens the cat, guarding the door. Hello, Granny, said mean old Mittens. What a nice treat you'd be to eat. Oh no, you must let me pass, said Granny Mouse. I must fetch a happy ending story to read to Sqeakins before his nap. Well, said Mittens, I'll let you pass if you promise to bring me fresh milk from the cows. So Granny scurried straight to the old brown Bessie and asked for milk. Oh, brown Bessie, may I please have some milk to give to mean old Mittens so I can find a storybook? Old Bessie was happy to help. I promise to give you milk if you can find me a shiny new cowbell to wear. Moo. So Granny Mouse scurried straight to old Tinker Tom to ask him for a shiny new cowbell. Old Tinker Tom, may I please have a shiny new cowbell for old brown Bessie? Asked Granny Mouse. I must fetch a happy story book for Sqeakins. I will give you a cowbell if you make me a glass of lemonade, said Tinker Tom. So Granny scurried to the leafy old lemon tree to ask for some lemons to make lemonade. Leafy old lemon tree, may I please have some round yellow lemons to make a glass of lemonade for old Tinker Tom, so he will give old brown Bessie a shiny new cowbell, so that she will give fresh milk to mean old Mittens, so I can pass? I must find a happy story to read Sqeakins. I'll give you as many lemons as you like, said the leafy old lemon tree, if you can find some water to sprinkle on me. So Granny Mouse stood in the middle of the yard to talk to the clouds. Puffy, puffy clouds, may I please have some water to sprinkle on old leafy lemon tree, so he will give me lemons to make lemonade for old Tinker Tom. Granny took a breath. So that Tinker Tom will give me a shiny new cowbell for old brown Bessie, so that she will give me fresh milk for mean old Mittens, so I can pass? Asked dear Granny Mouse. Because I must fetch a happy ending storybook for Sqeakins. And the puffy, fluffy clouds answered Granny Mouse with a big boo. And it began to rain on the leafy old lemon tree. Well, what do you think happened next? The clouds gave water, The tree gave lemons. Old Tinker Tom gave a cowbell. Old Brown Bessie gave milk. And mean old Mittens let Granny pass. Finally, Granny fetched the happiest ending storybook that she could find to read to little Sqeakins. But by the time Granny got back, he was already asleep. That's a good story. I think that's the end of that one. Should be. Sounds like it should be. Yep, that's the end of that one. I think that'll be the end of this book for tonight. Maybe next time I open this book, I read from this book, we'll start with the next story. So I'll mark that with this here. And that'll be our mark for this book. All right. Oh, come on, get in there. There we go. And that's A Children's Treasury. Collections of favorite stories. I got a few more books down here. Maybe we should continue on from the other day with read some more of these. Not many. I don't want to go over an hour, and we're about 50 minutes now. This Mother Goose Treasury. Look at that glare on there. Let's open this up to where we left off last time. Little boys and little girls. I like these little short, rhymey kind of things. Patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. Virtue is a grace. Grace is a little girl who wouldn't wash her face. Little Jack Horner. Little Jack Horner sat in a corner eating his Christmas pie. He put in his thumb and pulled out a plum and cried, "What a good boy am I." There was a little girl. Let me move this so I don't have glare so much. There was a little girl who had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very, very good. But when she was bad, she was horrid. She stood on her head, on her little trundle bed, with no one there to say no. She screamed and she squalled, she yelled and she bawled, and drummed her little heels against the window. Her mother heard the noise and thought it was the toys falling in the dusty attic. She rushed up the flight and saw she was right, and hugged her most emphatic. I like the first verse, or this verse. That was funny. Freddie and the Cherry Tree. Freddie and the Cherry Tree. Oh, I know, I already read the title. Freddie saw some fine ripe cherries hanging on a cherry tree. And he said, "You pretty cherries, will you not come down to me?" "Thank you kindly," said a cherry, "who would rather stay up here. If we ventured down this morning, You would eat us up, I fear. One, the finest of the cherries, dangled from a slender twig. You are beautiful, said Freddie, red and ripe, and oh, how big. Freddie's gonna eat him some cherries, sounds like. Oh, there's more. There's more to this. This is the first time I've seen it with these little rhyming things. Red and ripe, and oh, how big. Catch me, said the cherry. Catch me, little master, if you can. I would catch you very soon, said Freddie, if I were a grown-up man. Freddie jumped and tried to reach it, standing high upon his toes, but the cherry bobbed about and laughed and tickled Freddie's nose. Never mind, said little Freddie. I shall have them when it's right. But a blackbird whistled boldly. I shall have them all tonight. That was a good one. I like that. But I understand why they had to, because they had the picture here and it was a long one. All the other ones are pretty short. Dirty Jim. I wonder if this is going to be a 2-pager as well. Oh, at least 2 pages it looks like. Dirty Jim. There was one little Jim, 'twas reported of him, and must be to his latest disgrace, that he never was seen with hands at all clean, nor yet ever clean was his face. His friends were much hurt to see so much dirt, and often they made him quite clean, but all was in vain. He got dirty again, and not at all fit to be seen. It gave him no pain to hear them complain, nor his own dirty clothes to survey. His indolent mind no pleasure could find in tidy and wholesome array. Though unkempt and messy, unlike his friend Jesse, Jim loved dirty ways to be sure. But neat kids are seen to be decent and clean, and their smiles are ever so pure. All right, that is the end of that one. What was that one again? Dirty Jim. Little Miss Muffet. Oh. This one looks... nope, this was just short. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider, who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. My Little Brother. Little brother, darling boy, you are very dear to me. I am happy, full of joy, when your smiling face I see. How I wish that you could speak, and could know the words I say. Pretty stories I would speak, to amuse you every day. Shake your rattle, here it is. Listen to its merry noise. And when you are tired of this, I will bring you other toys. My Little Sister. My little sister, I have... Oh, sorry. I have a little sister. She is only 2 years old. But to us at home who love her, she is worth her weight in gold. We often play together, and I begin to find that to make my sister happy, I must be very kind. I must not taunt nor tease her, or ever angry be with the darling little sister that God has given me. That was a good one. Jack Jilf. Little Jack Jilf was put upon a shelf because he could not spell pie. When his Aunt Miss Grace saw his sorrowful face, she could not help saying, "Oh my." Let's see, a little one. Next one. Little Polly Flinders? Little Polly Flinders. Little Polly Flinders sat among the cinders, warming her pretty little toes. Her mother came and stopped her, for fear her lovely daughter would toast her pretty little nose. Yes, don't get too close to the fire. And that's the end of that. Little boys and girls. You know what? I'm going to add that to the description as well, since we read the whole thing of Little Boys and Girls, so I'll add that in there. Girls. Alright, and then the next time we'll save that and mark it. We'll do busy time rhymes next time. All right. It has now been almost an hour exactly. It is after 2 a.m. and it is time, well past time for bed. So, well, I hope you enjoyed the stories. And I hope you have a very good night's rest if you're listening to this before you go to bed as well. Thanks for reading with me. And until next time, be safe out there.